These are the daily activities you should do on a BSF farm. First job, come to your bays in the morning. You can see the maggots. It all looks very flat, it's all been turned over, and you just need to check. Basically, you're feeding them. So you start by turning it, and then you're checking for things like moisture, is there too much liquid in there? If there is, then you need to add something to dry out. Because we're using a lot of fruit waste, we get quite a bit of moisture. So you can see here we've added some bit of sawdust and some rice bran. And it just adds a bit of mixture. The rice bran, it doesn't absorb that much water, but what it does is it creates a bit more of a looser texture, because you want the maggots to be able to move around freely within the substrate. And if it's too, get this straight, I'll show you. If it's too wet, and too much sawdust, what you get is it gets all clogged up, turns into sort of like a mud. You don't want mud, you want the maggots to be able to move. So you add rice bran or something like that, and it stops that. It doesn't absorb a huge amount of liquid, but it will help with the texture, as it were. We also add a bit of sawdust just to absorb any liquid. So there's not too much liquid. I'll add a little bit. You can see it's not pooling, and there's not a huge amount of maggots because this bay's towards the end. But you're checking also for, do they need to add some more food, some more substrate? The way you know that is, you can see this is all digested, because there is very little undigested food in here. There's obviously a few things like pineapple heads, they probably won't go through that, but we can remove that when we go to sell the frass. But most of it's looking pretty good, because it's all black and digested. So that means one of two things: either you need to add some more food because there isn't enough for them, but if you are towards the end of your production cycle, then you might not want to add food, because the food's not going to get decomposed because there's not as many maggots there. And the way you would know that is the second activity of the day. You check down here and you check, look how many frass pre-pupa we've got. So we collect these. We'll put those into a tray, and then we'll put those into our polytunnel. So back to activity number one, checking your substrate. Is it wet? Add some rice, rice bran, add some sawdust if it's too wet. If it's too dry, add a bit of liquid. How much food is in this bay for the maggots to eat? There's not a huge amount in here because it's all black, it's all been digested. So if you need to add some substrate, you add that. That's the first job. And then the other reason you're turning it, so even if you're looking like this and it looks fine, you want to turn it because you're trying to get oxygen down there. And currently, the maggots, they need oxygen, they produce carbon dioxide. And at the bottom, there'll be a lot of carbon dioxide, not much oxygen, so you turn it to give them a bit of aeration, and also to encourage them to eat anything that's not been eaten. And sort of mixing it as you go. So do that once a day, and then you put this back over the top, this mesh, to stop any rodents or anything like that getting in. So that's job number one.